Good day, everyone. Welcome to another lesson of creative writing. For today's discussion, we will talk about poetry. For today's objective, we should be able to identify the various elements, techniques, and literary devices in specific forms of poetry. Let's begin. So, what is poetry? Poetry is a form of literature which allows the writers who call to be poets to express their thoughts, feelings, emotions, and ideas about a particular theme or topic. Poetry is also a type of writing where words are arranged based on their meanings, sound, and rhythm to share ideas and feelings. Next, we have the parts of a poem. First, the voice speaker or the speaker in a poem, which could be the poet or the character that the poet created. Second, the line or a single line of text from left to right. Also, we have the stanza or a group of lines separated by a space, and the rhyme scheme or the pattern of rhymes within a poem. So, in this example, we can already recognize the parts of a poem. First, I as the voice speaker, then we have the line and also the rhyme scheme. Next, we have the elements of poetry. First, the rhyme or the words that have the same ending sound. Second, the rhythm or the beat of the poem. Third, repetition or the words, phrases, or lines that are repeated. Please remember these three because I will be explaining more later on. And now to our next topic, we will talk about imagery. So, what is imagery? Imagery is used to describe something in a way that makes the reader feel like they can see, hear, smell, taste, or feel it. In short, imagery is the use of words that appeal to the senses in order to create a picture in the reader's mind. Of course, we already know these five senses. We have the sight, the smell, the taste, the touch, and the sound. Let's read an example of a poem and determine if some of these senses were used. The poem is titled A Sense of Yellow by Carrie Carter. It's the warmth of sunshine as it tangles on my skin. It's the icy lemonade that I eagerly drink. It's the scent of buttercups carried gently to the breeze. It's the sweetest honeycomb and the quiet buzz of bees. It's a sour lemon drop that melts upon my lips. It's the taste of summer rain, and I gulp down my greedy sips. It's salty air that's blowing over castles on the beach. It is the tiny sailboats, far away and out of reach. Yellow's more than a feeling, it's something real and true. It is the warmth of friendship that I feel when I'm with you. And now, let's see what imagery was used in the poem. To determine, I highlighted the words that best describes or matches these five senses. For sight, we have green, smell, yellow, taste, blue, touch, purple, sound, red. So we also have a bonus for feeling, which are the underlying words. For the touch, it's the warmth of sunshine as it tangles on my skin. It's the icy, and then for the taste, lemonade that I eagerly drink. For the smell, it's the scent of buttercups carried gently to the breeze. Again, for the taste, it's the sweetest honeycomb and sound and the quiet buzz of bees. Next, for the taste, it's a sour lemon drop. For touch, that melts upon my lips. Taste, it's the taste of summer rain, and I gulp down greedy sips. Smell, it's salty air that's blowing. Sight, over castles on the beach. It is the tiny sailboats, far away and out of reach. For feeling, yellow's more than a feeling. It's something real and true. It is the warmth of friendship that I feel when I'm with you. In this poem, Feeling is not just physically felt, but also emotionally.
So the words I've read to you are examples of imagery. The poet or the speaker used the five senses to create an image in the reader's mind. And now we will talk about the figurative language. Figurative language uses phrases and figures of speech that mean something other than what the words actually say. So, figurative language are words and expressions that can be used in poems and other texts to convey various meanings and interpretations from the literal meaning. So, there are several figurative devices that can be used as a tool for a writer to appeal to the senses of the reader. These figurative devices were already discussed from our previous lesson. First we have is the simile. Simile uses like or as to compare two unlike things. Second, the metaphor. Metaphor says that two different things are the same thing. Next, personification. Personification gives human qualities to non-human things. And lastly, idiom. Idioms are phrases that do not mean exactly what they say. Here is an example. The title of this poem is Midnight Snack by Carrier Carter. I was a hungry lion. When I woke up late at night, my tummy started growling, and so I flipped on the light. The stairs all groaned beneath me as I crept quiet as a mouse. My belly was rumbling thunder as I wandered through my house. I saw my brother's cupcake, and it called to me by name. I knew I shouldn't take a bite, but I tasted it all the same. Sly as a fox, I turned around. My brother asked me what I'd done. I felt a frog stuck in my throat, and a cat had gotten in my tongue. Then I thought he'd blow his top as I wiped frosting off my cheek. But he smiled sweet as a pie and said, "You'll be doping my chores all week." So again, in this example, I highlighted the words that best describes or matches the figurative devices. So for simile, we have blue, metaphor, purple, personification, green, and idiom, yellow. So again, for the metaphor, we use the words I was a hungry lion. When I woke up late at night, personification, my tummy started growling, and so I flipped on the light. And the stairs all groaned beneath me as I crept, simile, quiet as a mouse. Metaphor, my belly was rumbling thunder as I wandered through my house. Next, I saw my brother's cupcake, and, personification, it called to me by name. I knew I shouldn't take a bite, but I tasted it all the same. Simile, sly as a fox, I turned around. My brother asked me what I'd done. Idiom, I felt a frog stuck in my throat, and a cat had gotten in my tongue. Then I thought he'd blow his top, as I wiped frosting off my cheek. Simile, but he smiled sweet as a pie and said, "You'll be doping my chores all week." So again, the poet or the writer used figurative language to add dimension to our prose and poetry, allowing us to say things with more flair and color. Figurative language tends to be vivid, so it pops and comes alive in the people's imagination. And now, for our next topic, we will talk about the poetic sound devices. Poetic sound devices are tools used carefully in order to create sounds and mood within a poem. This device can help the reader hear a poem. The way a poet structures their stanzas and chooses their words can bring a poem to life. So we have at least five poetic sound devices. First is rhyme. These are the words that have the same ending sound. It is usually found at the end of the line. Example: I do not like green beans and rice. I do not think they will taste nice. I do not want red beets and roast. I will not eat it on my toast. So as what you can see in the example, the words rice, nice, roast, and toast are the words that have the same ending sound. Next, we have rhythm. Rhythm is the beat of the poem heard in pattern of stressed and non-stressed syllables. Example: in winter I get up at night and dress by yellow candlelight. In summer quite the other way, I have to go to bed by day. In the example, the highlighted syllables served as the beat of the poem. Next, repetition. These are the words, phrases, or lines that are repeated and is usually used to show importance. Example: Miss Mary Mac, 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 all dressed in black, 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 with silver buttons, 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 all down her back, back, back. So as we can see, the words Mac, black, buttons, and back are the words that are usually repeated or used several times. Next, our fourth poetic sound device is alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of the same beginning sound. Example: Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? So in the example, you can definitely hear the alliteration because almost every word starts with a p sound. And onto our last poetic sound device, onomatopoeia. These are the words that make the sound they are describing. Here is an example. Whoosh, crack, boom. Thunder fills the room. Po, bang, roar. I am hiding on the floor. So in this example, the highlighted words actually describes the sounds as if the reader hears the story. And now, for our last topic, we will talk about the forms of poetry. Form is the style of a poem and the way in which it is written, whether it creates a sound, tells a story, and has rhythm. Example: There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had many children. She didn't know what to do. A poem also refers to its structure, like its line length, meters, stanza length, rhyme schemes, if any, and systems of repetition. We have at least six forms of poetry. The first one is limerick. Limerick is a fan form of poetry that usually tells about a person or animal. It has 5 lines and follows this pattern of line length and rhymes. For the first line, we have about 8 syllables. Second line, 8 syllables. Third line, about 5 syllables. Fourth line, 5 syllables. And the last line, about 8 syllables. Here is an example. There once was a kitty named Boo, who cried when he went to the zoo. He met a big lion, who sat down beside him as he tried to eat his left shoe. In this example, I used 8, 8, 6, 6, 8 syllables. You can create your own limerick poem without literally following the 8, 8, 5, 5, 8 pattern. As long as the first, second, and last line have the same syllables, as well as the third and fourth. Next is free verse. Free verse is a form of poetry that does not follow patterns of rhythm and rhyme. Example: Snow falls from frozen clouds. White blankets the land. The bears sleep quietly. The birds have gone south. Because it is winter. Since free verse is an open form of poetry, it means that it has no predetermined structure and no prescribed length. Since there's no rhyme scheme and no set of metrical pattern, there are no specific rules for line breaks or stanza divisions. Next, we have quatrain. A quatrain in poetry is a series of four lines that makes one verse of a poem, known as a stanza. Example: Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. So this is an example of a four-line poetry. The next form of poetry is cinquain. Cinquain is a form of poetry that has five lines and follows this pattern. One thing, a noun, two describing words or adjective, three verbs, one thought or phrase, and one thing, a synonym. Here's an example: orange, sweet, juicy, peeling, squeezing, squirting, drinking liquid sunshine, citrus. So as you can see, we use the word orange for the noun, sweet and juicy for its adjectives, peeling, squeezing, and squirting for the verbs, drinking liquid sunshine for the phrase, and citrus for its synonym. The fifth form of poetry is haiku. Haiku is a Japanese form of poetry that has three lines and follows this pattern: five syllables, seven syllables, and five syllables. Example: apples, crisps, and sweet, juices dripping down my chin, yummy fall delight. As you can see, we follow the 5-7-5 syllables or pattern. And the last form of poetry is acrostic. Acrostic is a form of poetry where the first letter of each line spells out a word. Example: chewy bites, assorted flavors, never enough pieces, delicious and yummy treats. So as you can see in the example, the first letter of each line formed the word candy. So that's it. But again, before we officially end our discussion, let us have a summary of what we have learned today. Again, what is poetry? Poetry is a form of literature which allows the writers who call to be poets to express their thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas about a particular theme or topic. So we have the parts of a poem, we have the voice speaker, line, stanza, and rhyme scheme. Also, for the elements of poetry, we have rhyme, rhythm, and repetition. So again, what is imagery? Imagery is used to describe something in a way that makes the reader feel like they can see, hear, smell, taste, or feel it. Next, figurative language. So figurative language uses phrases and figures of speech that mean something other than what the words actually say. We have the different types of figurative language. We have simile, metaphor, personification, and idiom. And then we have the poetic sound devices. These are the tools used carefully in order to create sounds and mood within a poem. So the types of poetic sound devices are rhyme, rhythm, repetition, alliteration, and onomatopoeia. And lastly, we have the forms of poetry. So the forms of poetry is the style of a poem and the way in which it is written, whether it creates sounds, tells a story, or has rhythm. So the forms of poetry are limerick, free verse, quatrain, cinquain, haiku, and acrostic. Also, a weekly reminder that the activities for this lesson are already indicated in your modules. Upon answering, please follow your weekly home learning plan. Remember to write your name, your section, the subject, and the activity number. So again, I hope you had fun and learned something from today's discussion. Thank you and see you in our next lesson.